So I graduated college. This is coming right off. Yes, it finally happened. After 5-ish years, I'm finally done with college. The degrees haven't shown up yet, but I promise, I'm done. And with this milestone passed, I wanted to make a video reflecting on my experience and give some tips to either incoming college students or people who are already in college and still need tips. I don't know. Here we go. In 2016, I was accepted into the University of North Texas. UNT was not one of my main choices. Honestly, it wasn't even on my radar until a few weeks before classes started that semester. I was not the most prepared to transition from high school to college. I applied so late that I actually missed the audition dates for the College of Music. So for my first semester at UNT, I was officially a theater major. Sorry, Mom. Honestly, it's not like music is much better. That first semester was so fun. Because I was planning on being a music major, I didn't take any theater classes, so I knocked out a ton of my basics. Because of that, I had a lot of free time. And I also had a super awesome RA named Jonathan. Usually your first year of college, you have to live in dorms with a bunch of other students and an RA, which is the resident assistant. Basically, they live in the dorm with us and foster the community. Through Jonathan, I met the rest of the people on my floor and we would have study sessions and game nights all the time. A lot of my closest friends who I still keep up with today were made in that first semester, including my girlfriend. She lived 2 doors down from me. I've got a ton of stories from that first semester, so if you want to hear any, leave a comment and maybe I'll make a video about that some other time. I wasn't able to take any official music classes that semester, but I was able to be in a choir. I kept my voice up, and at the end of the semester, I auditioned and was officially accepted into the UNT College of Music. And that's where things get fast. The music major life is not for the faint of heart. On top of a full course load of classes, you're expected to participate in a ton of extra ensembles and activities. They'll say they're optional, but they're not. Some of the classes did this really fun thing where the number of credit hours was wrong. For example, the choir classes I had to take were registered as 1-hour credit classes. That means throughout an entire week, you would meet for 1 hour traditionally. A 3-hour class would meet Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for an hour each day. But every ensemble met for at least 5 times that much. And a lot of the music classes were like that. This isn't so much a complaint, just something I had to get used to. If I signed up for 17 credit hours one semester, I had to plan as if it were 30. This made keeping a job or jobs throughout college kind of difficult, and my social life also took quite the dip. The biggest reason that I didn't consider UNT when first applying to colleges was that it didn't have a musical theater program. When I was in high school, I thought I was going to go to some top 10 musical theater school and end up on Broadway. Obviously that didn't happen, but I do still really like those musical theater and more contemporary styles. But UNT was a classical school. The jazz program is really renowned, but there's no intermingling between the two. So all my studies, my private lessons, and juries were focused on classical singing. This made me feel a bit like I didn't belong. 1, because I didn't think I was particularly good at classical singing, and 2, because I just wasn't that interested in the music. But instead of giving up, I made it a challenge. I was gonna make myself like classical music. This took a lot of work and a lot of personal research, but the more I found out about the music, the more I found myself enjoying it. This also kickstarted a love of learning about all kinds of music and art. I mean, have you seen some of the other videos I've made? Towards the end of college, I even started developing my jazz vocabulary. This really changed who I was as a person and as an artist. And this was how a lot of music school went. I would learn a lot from my classes, but also a lot from personal studying. I also started making YouTube videos at some point. I think this idea of learning how to learn is really important, and it's something I'm going to touch on at the end of this video when I give out my tips for college students. I also practiced a lot. Some semesters I would fit it in whenever I had time. Other semesters I would schedule at least 5 hours a day of practice. If you want to go to music school, be prepared to practice. On top of your full course load, of course. The next big change came during my last semester of college when I got to student teach. So I officially have 2 degrees. One is in vocal performance, which was like basically opera training. And the second is in music education. Because of the latter, I had to do a semester of student teaching. I would basically go into 2 different schools for 9 weeks each and teach. I would learn a lot from the teachers that were actually hired to work at that school, and they would let me teach lessons and lead rehearsals and all sorts of stuff. This was by far my favorite semester of college. Ironically, it was my favorite because I didn't have to go to college. It was so refreshing to be outside of the music school bubble. And working with kids, I taught at a high school and at an elementary school, was incredibly rewarding and solidified my love for teaching just as much as my love for writing and performing. And that was the last thing to do before graduating. I am very grateful for the experience I had, but I do feel like I walked my own path through college. Having to work through school, I had a lot less time to give to things that weren't absolutely necessary for me to graduate. I also wasn't ever a star student. I made good grades, but classical singing wasn't my only interest. I wanted to write musicals and learn instruments and make YouTube videos. I wasn't sought after by any staff members or vocal teachers. I ended up bouncing between a few different vocal and piano coaches throughout undergrad, which isn't terrible, but usually you want to stick to 1 or 2 teachers throughout the entire 4 years, or 5.5 in my case. I also wasn't offered a ton of spots in master classes or networking opportunities that I didn't find myself. I definitely liked all my teachers, and I'm pretty sure they liked me. I just feel like I sort of went through college instead of thriving through college, if that makes sense. Which is okay. I think I'm saying that even if you're not the golden child of the university, you can still have a great experience, which is exactly what I did. I would still say I had a great experience at college. I met a lot of wonderful friends and mentors who really shaped who I am. I also did end up finding a lot of great opportunities to sing and play at a professional level. My second year of college, I was hired on to sing in a church choir, which was one of the first jobs I ever had where I was paid just to sing. It was awesome. Whew, it's getting hot. So that was a really quick overview of my time at college. Now that you know where I'm coming from and my journey, I wanted to give some tips that I wish I knew when first going into college. Now, some of these tips are going to be specific to music majors because that's what I did, but a lot of these are pretty universal no matter what you go to school for. Number 1. Be open to things. Now, you've heard this a million times, but it's true. That's why everybody says it. The person who I was going into college and coming out is a totally different person. College is a great place to really figure out who you are. Look deeper into the things you study, but also take a class in something totally random. Get into politics. Just hang out with new people. For a lot of people, college is the first time where you're really alone without somebody like a parent or guardian telling you, or at least guiding you, with what to do. So take that freedom, be responsible, and have a good time. Number 2, make your own opportunities. Now, a lot of people say that you go to college for networking, and that is true, but I also think that a lot of the idea of networking is on you to make an impression on people. Like I said, I was never given a ton of great networking opportunities just for being at the school, because there were a ton of us. So do things that make you stand out, and try to meet as many people as possible. Number 3, don't compare yourself to others. Now this one's kind of touchy in the music community, especially somewhere like a college or conservatory where you're constantly around other people and getting graded for your art. It's kind of hard not to be compared. But I do think it's way more beneficial to compare yourself with yourself, if that makes sense. Don't try to be better than the person next to you, try to be better than you yesterday. It took me a long time to realize this, but everybody's on their own journey. And just because you can't play a scale as fast as somebody else or articulate as well as somebody else doesn't make you less of a musician. Number 4, practice. Adding on to the last point, practice is the only way to really get good at something. Natural talent can take you some of the way, but there are countless stories of people in college who thought they didn't have to put in the work, so when they got there, they didn't know how to put in the work and they fell off. Number 5, find the joy in joyless things. This is another tip that took me a long time to understand. If you need to do something but you don't enjoy doing it, try to find a way to enjoy it. In the case of many musicians at college, that is practicing. Practicing is terrible and everybody hates it, and you have to use practice rooms that are right next to each other so you can hear other people who are better than you, and it sucks. Okay, it's terrible. So around my 3rd or 4th year of college, I really spent some time and made a dedicated practice routine that changed based on what I needed to work on. But I made sure I was never doing just mindless practice. Instead of practicing just scales up and down, I would try to improvise a song using that scale, or play them in different time signatures, or something that makes it more enjoyable. The more you can make your practice sound like music, the more fun it's gonna be. Number 6, learn how to learn. This is huge. I think the main thing that college teaches people isn't any specific subject, no matter what the major, but it's how to learn things. College is a little different from high school or any other grade where you're sort of just given information and then you study for a test. A lot of classes at college are like that, but a lot of them are open-ended with research ideas, especially as you get towards the end of undergrad and into graduate studies. Have a list of websites or books you can go to for references on things. Figure out which YouTube videos have good information. Everything I learned at music school is totally available on YouTube. It would have just taken me a heck of a lot longer to find it all. And structuring, and it's a whole thing. So, learn how to learn. Number 7. Take care of yourself. In the last few years, the idea of self-care and mental health checks have become a lot more prominent, which is great. Especially in a competitive environment like college, you're under a lot of stress all the time. Nobody knows your body and mind better than you, so make sure you're doing what you can to take care of it. Drink water, sleep a lot. If you need to skip that class, skip that class. Show up the next time, but a day's fine. Number 8, don't gatekeep/be a dick. So many people at college are so elitist with their opinions, especially in the music community. If you go to any classical musician, more often than not, they will rattle on about how pop music is terrible and all that yada yada. And that's just dumb. People go to college to broaden their mind and their perspectives. So if you come in already closed off to a lot of things, that's just hurting yourself. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it's bad. That one's pretty straightforward, but it's just, God, so many people are just dicks. Number 9. No theory/know where to find answers. This one is very specific to music kids. When we got to school, the class that everybody had to take was music theory. We all had to learn how music theory worked. And for somebody like me who didn't have any training before this, I was playing catch up a lot of the time. So for anybody looking to go into music school, really try to learn as much theory as you can. Don't be afraid if you don't know any theory. You will be taught and you can catch up. But if you want to save yourself some strife, go ahead and learn it now. This also goes back to tip number 6, knowing how to learn and where to look for answers. There are a lot of people on YouTube who have great theory videos. I'll link a couple in the description, but take an afternoon and just find some. Number 10, grades don't matter. This one has another asterisk next to it because it sort of depends on what you want to do. If you plan to go into grad school and then get a PhD and become a doctor, yeah, grades kind of matter. But for a lot of jobs going out of college, they really don't look at the grades you got. The degree is enough, and that's awesome. Number 11. Time management. This one is probably the second most important tip out of all of them. Get good at time management. Depending on your situation, you may have classes, multiple jobs, ensemble things, conflicting class schedules, extracurriculars, interviews, you get it. I've been known to be pretty good at balancing time, so this was something that helped me a lot through college. I was able to hold down jobs entirely through college, paid rent at the apartment I lived in while still making it to all my classes. It's not easy, but it's doable. Either buy a physical calendar or get Google Calendar or something, but write things down. And tip number 12, keep the passion for what you do. College and music school specifically is great and it's a lot of fun, but it's also very, very draining. And a lot of the times you can be left thinking, why am I even here? What am I doing? I don't belong. All those great feelings. It's really important to always look back and remember why you chose this path. What events in your life led to this decision? What is going to bring you joy as an artist and as a person? Burnout is all too real in college, so keeping track of that is going to help. And if you're not enjoying making music, why are you doing it? So those are my tips. That got a little rambly towards the end, but I wanted to give you an off-the-cuff sort of my thoughts as they happened view of what I wish I knew when I started college. If you graduated, what are some tips that you wish you knew before starting college? Leave them in the comments below and like this video so more people can see it and learn from our collective experience. Make sure to subscribe to know when my next video comes out, and thanks for watching.